Welcome to Momentum Academy. This lesson is part of the Momentum Academy Bubble Bootcamp, where we teach you how to design and build professional apps without writing code. You can find the complete course linked in the description below, and if you want more tutorials and deep dives, make sure you subscribe to the channel. In this lesson, we are talking about layout fundamentals. When we talk about layout on the web, we are really talking about the CSS box model. You might recognize this illustration. It defines the way every element on a page is structured. We have already talked about boxes in earlier modules, and Bubble uses the same terminology as the CSS box model, so it is worth understanding the basics. If you want to explore this in more detail, you can Google CSS box model. There are lots of great explanations available online. For now, we will look at the essentials. Let's imagine you have a group in Bubble, or even a simple text box or a button. At the center, you have the content. This is whatever text or element sits inside the box. Around the content is the padding. Padding is the space inside the border but outside the content. In this illustration, the padding is shown in red. Outside, the padding is the border, and outside the border is the margin. The margin creates space between the element and whatever is around it. The border can be 0 pixels or 10 pixels, or anything you choose, and padding always sits inside that border. This means padding is usually the best way to create space inside an object. For example, if this is a button, we might want to add some padding to create breathing room around the text. That could be 4 pixels on the left and right, or 8 pixels top and bottom, depending on the scale we want. Margin, on the other hand, sits outside the border. Margin creates space between the object and its parent container, or surrounding elements. Padding is inside, margin is outside, and each layer takes up real space. That is the essence of the CSS box model: content, padding, border, and margin. In this simple example with a button, the button is the content, the space around it is the padding, and the border defines the outline of the group. Margin appears outside the border and determines how much space sits between this button and anything next to it. Earlier in the course, we talked about font scales and color scales. Now we are looking at spacing scales. This is the IBM Carbon Design System Spacing Guideline. It uses a 2-pixel grid, and every spacing value is a multiple of 2. As you move up the scale, the spacing increases by 4 or 8 pixels at a time. This gives a consistent rhythm to the design. For our project, we are using a 4-pixel grid system. Here you can see our spacing guide. You may recognize that the way we have been building our landing page has been to this guide. Here is an illustration of our grid system. We have the outer gutters or margins, which create empty space on either side of the page, and inside that we have the columns that help define how we space things on the page. As you may have noticed in our assignments so far, the desktop layout is constrained to 1128 pixels wide, and there is a 156 pixel margin on both sides. We also have grid versions for tablet and mobile. Tablet has a 40 pixel margin on each side, while mobile has 20 pixels. As the screen size shrinks, the grid adapts with it. Let's look at this fictional card from a meal planning app. At first glance, there are spacing issues. There is not much breathing room. Everything feels tight against the edges. The button is very large. The font weights do not stand out from each other, and overall, it is not clear what your eye should focus on. When we place 3 cards side by side, this becomes even more obvious. This layout is similar to what you might see on a typical pricing page. Now let's walk through how we can improve this using our grid system. We start by adding padding. Here is the original card on the left. On the right, we have added 16 pixels of padding around the border. Already it feels more comfortable. Then we try 32 pixels of padding. This adds even more breathing room and separates the content from the edges. Both options are better than the original, but we will move forward with the 32 pixel version. Next, we adjust the spacing of related items. Here is the version with 32 pixels of padding. In the updated version, we bring the feature bullet points closer together. This visually groups them and makes the list feel more cohesive. Now we adjust the spacing of the text to improve hierarchy. In the original, the heading is difficult to scan. We move the subheading down and change the colour. We increase the weight of the plan title so it stands out clearly. Next, we refine the button. The original button feels oversized and draws too much attention. In the revised version, we adjust the padding to reduce its visual dominance and make it feel balanced with the rest of the card. Then we align the content. The previous layout had inconsistent indentation. By pulling everything back to the left, we create a clean line that makes the card more structured and easier to read. Now let's make some changes to the colour. The original border is too dark, so we switch to a lighter, neutral grey that matches the colour scale we defined earlier. We also change the colour of the plan label so it is no longer competing with the main elements. We apply the lightest variant of our primary colour to the button background, and we reverse the tick colours to improve contrast. There is another subtle improvement here. We add a light drop shadow to the card. This gives it a slight three-dimensional feel and helps it stand out from the background. When we zoom out, the difference between the original cards and the redesigned cards is very clear. We now have a layout that uses spacing, alignment, colour and typography to support the user. It feels cleaner, more professional and much easier to interpret. We can also highlight a preferred option. Here we add a border using the primary colour and add a small, most popular pill at the top. This draws the user's attention to the card we want them to choose. This is a common UI technique to guide decision making. If you want to practice, you are welcome to recreate these cards yourself or explore the examples in the landing page assignment. This is an excellent exercise in applying alignment, spacing, grouping, font weights and colour weights. To summarise, stay consistent with your spacing. Multiples of 4 or 5 work well, and in our case, study, we are using a 4-pixel grid. Good spacing improves readability and makes your content easier to navigate. Group related items together, separate unrelated items, and use alignment to bring structure and clarity to your designs. Thanks so much for listening. I will see you in the next lesson where we will explore micro interactions.